kind of the topic of Florida's path to the college football playoff. A little bit of schedule talk here and key games, most important games, biggest game. I think you can define that. Biggest game to me is not necessarily most important. And I'll say, why. The most important game, there's your rivals and things like that. Biggest game, I think you can kind of put a different definition on this year. We will certainly do so. And, if it's 9-3 is good for the playoff. But Sponge, let's put it up here. First of all, let's go. I didn't do it the other night because I kind of ran out of time. But the preseason AP poll. We'll use that as our first barometer, then I'll pull up the schedule. But, there we go. We all know about it. There's 7 teams in the preseason AP top 25 college football poll that Florida has to play. Got them highlighted right there for you. Number 1, Texas. Number 5, Georgia. Number 9, LSU. Number 10, Miami. Number 19, Texas A&M. Number 21, Ole Miss. Number 24, Tennessee. That is Florida's opponents in the preseason AP top 25. So, it certainly can scream different values here for most important game, biggest game. They are different for me, Sponge. I will go first here, but most important game, everybody's going to know it already. It's personal for me. It always is. But the most important game is, that number 5, Georgia Bulldogs. Not just because it's Georgia. That's where it starts, don't get me wrong. But it's not just because of that. It's time, Sponge. It's, the gap is smaller than it has been in quite some time. You played them tough last year, even without DJ Lagway. It almost was a coulda, shoulda, woulda if DJ Lagway was playing that game. It's just time. And, there's been haven't beat them since 2020. Haven't beat them since the COVID year. We were all in masks at the time last time Florida beat Georgia. That's how long it's been.
Yeah.
After just beating their brains in for about 20 years, you couldn't. Now you can't get out of your own way. Hey, look, they're still probably overall the best program. Whether they're the best team this year, probably not. I don't know. I wouldn't put that on them right now. They could be by the time the season's in, but they are probably still the best program in college football. Well, you know what? You're closing the gap somewhat this year. Do they probably have a better overall roster? In some ways, probably yes. A better experienced roster, I think, goes to Florida. That's why you got to take advantage. So for me, the most important game, because it is in the SEC, because it is one of your biggest rivals, if not definitely your biggest in-conference rival, it's just time to beat Georgia.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I'll go different than you just because you picked Georgia. But we'll talk about Georgia just because, like you said it, like they are the team to beat. They have been. The epitome, the top of college football, the last 5 to 10 years, going back to, we haven't beat them since, Kyle Trask kept throwing wheel routes to, backs and tight ends. And, that was our best roster that we've had to date since then.
Yeah.
And, and Georgia has been Georgia. They've won national titles. They've been really, really good. Kirby's recruiting at a high level. He's got studs coming in. He replaces guys that leave. They are definitely one of the standards when it comes to college football. And yes, that being your number one rival every year. Yeah, I remember as a kid, as a teenager and a kid going to Florida Georgia games and we never lost to them.
It was an afterthought.
Yeah, I went to a couple of those. I went to the 97 loss where it was just like, what is this? And then I went to the game when they came to the Swamp and we stomped them. I mean, we didn't only we beat the brakes off of Georgia for years. And Spurrier toyed with Georgia. And it's just that feels so long ago. But, for a stretch there, it was going back and forth for a little bit. They would get us a couple years. We'd get them a couple years. Yeah. But obviously they've kind of dominated the series and college football the last several. But, yeah, that's definitely a huge game. I'll go Texas for mine just because, again, they're the number – allegedly they'd be number 1 in the country coming to the Swamp. I just think that's going to be a huge game. And
I got that as my biggest game.
Yeah. Okay, there you go.
That's how I labeled that one.
Okay, totally. Then I totally would agree with that one. And I just feel like that atmosphere is going to be great.
Yep.
It's again, Texas is relatively new to the SEC. Obviously, we'd love to welcome them into Gainesville with a big loss. Arch Manning, the hype behind that game is going to be off the charts. So, I want to beat Texas this year. just because everybody, I guess Texas fans and Texas in general, they feel like they hold themselves to like they're the higher than the oiny, like I'm better than you, and like it gets to be, I guess, like, let me bring you back down to earth, man. Y'all ain't done nothing in 20 years either. So Vince Young has been a long time away, so that, again, Texas, they're the new bad big boy on the block and all that. So I'll go Texas as the team I want to beat. And obviously Georgia definitely want to beat the Dogs. But those are early, like that Texas game's early in the year. And obviously we know, looking at the schedule, the other two teams in the top 10 are obviously going to be tough road games for us, going to Baton Rouge and then going to play Miami as well. So like the schedule's loaded. We know that. And, we just got to take care of each, like as you alluded to at the very beginning, I wanted to use coach speak. What's the biggest game? The next one.
I can't go that far along. Okay.
The next one.
Yeah. But that's why I say I think Texas is the biggest game. And it is hard for me to say Georgia's not the biggest game because it is the SEC game and it's the game I think you got to win. That's why I will. Maybe I'm splitting hairs, and maybe some people don't think there is a difference between most important and biggest. I do think there is this year because Texas is at home. This is a game none of us have seen. This is a game, Florida and Texas. We go to Austin last year. Okay, we haven't seen them in the swamp. Nobody in our lifetime has seen them come play in the swamp. So First you get that. And like you said, they play Ohio State week 1. They get by that. It is a cakewalk till they play Florida. It is, I forget it, but it is a cakewalk. I think it's 3 out of conference patsies, if I'm not mistaken, before they play Florida. And then, now they do travel to Gainesville and play Florida, I think, off of a bye week as well. So both teams have a bye week, but it is before Red River Shootout.
Yeah. They basically play San Jose State, UTEP, and Sam Houston State are the two. There are 3 games before Florida after that game to the Horseshoe. So
and I'm right. They do have a bye week before Florida too, right?
Yeah, and then it's basically Red River is that following week. So it's kind of like that's a funky sandwich there. They basically are going to get that banger out the gate. Yeah. Win, lose, or draw. Then you get kind of like 3 layups. So then you got to come get hopefully punched in the mouth in Gainesville. And then,
but like the other angle you said too, why it could be the biggest game. Even if Florida loses at LSU, nobody's going to shame Florida for losing at LSU. You got to beat Miami to I think, make the Texas game feel as big as it can be. If you're undefeated, then it's going to be even more so, especially if they beat Ohio State. If you got an undefeated Florida and an undefeated Texas, and DJ Lagway's lighting it up, and Arch Manning's lighting it up, well, College Game Day is going to be there. It's for sure going to be an 8 o'clock kickoff. It is going to be the biggest game in Gainesville in quite some time now. Both teams have got to live up to that billing, but I think that there is a chance that is – you got Georgia-Bama, I think, the week before that because it is during Florida's bye week. So you could have Georgia-Bama 1 week.
Yeah, Georgia-Bama's the week before.
Yeah, so you could have Georgia-Bama. You could have a top 5 matchup if games play out a certain way the week before, and then another. I think if Florida beats LSU in Miami, Florida's will be hovering around top 5.
Oh yeah.
So you can have 2 weeks back to back because the Georgia-Bama loser will fall the week before that. You could have 2 top 5 SEC matchups in back to back weeks, and Florida Texas being that with one of the best quarterback matchups everybody's going to be circling.
Yeah. What are you talking about, Dave? The SEC's overrated, man. What are you talking about? Come on. They don't deserve all this hype. They don't deserve all this talk. Like, come on. No, these teams are the best teams in the country. And like you said, there's nothing more than – I know preseason polls is a bunch of hype, and a lot of people are like, oh, why are they – like, they have to rank them somewhere just to get you to – everybody's going to watch the games, but it gives the hype element of – week 1, we've got like 4 top 10 games, so it's like they got to hype it up. And sure, there's going to be teams that are way overrated. Then there's going to be teams that are kind of underrated, under the radar, that kind of come out of nowhere. But you got to rank these teams off of potential from last year, potential from what's coming up this season, and expectation levels of this quarterback versus that quarterback. So they got to rank them somewhere. I know everybody, let's start out with no numbers. Well, then when you're playing this, Ohio State Texas game, and there's no numbers beside it, you're just like, yeah, it's a big matchup, but let me see 1 versus 2 or 3 versus 4. You want to see that. So
Yeah.
you got to rank them somewhere. But yeah, like the schedule is the schedule. If the Gators, like we always said, if you can come out 3-1 going into that Texas game, we'll take it. Hoping that you're obviously you take the LSU win over the Miami win, even though that's, man, I can't even believe I'm saying that too, because I hate Miami as well. But you'd rather take the SEC win. But somehow, some way, if you were undefeated,
I think I'm on the other side of that. I think you
really.
Can,
you can have them. I totally. You know what? I do agree, because you can't have mulligans now in the SEC. You can have the SEC.
Exactly.
Mulligans.
You can have mulligans. You don't have to be in Atlanta to get to the playoff.
You're totally right. That's totally
true. I think
true.
a loss to Miami can hurt you more than a loss to LSU.
I'm with you on that. I'll flip it. I'm with you, because you don't, like we seen it last year, Tennessee. You don't have to go to Atlanta. Like sometimes it might be better not to go have to play another game. You don't have to go play in that game. It kind of takes away the luster of the SEC championship a little bit. But I know, in talks of this whole expansion thing, that the whole play-in weekend would be, that would be where, you get into one of those matchups. And then, we'll talk that business when it happens. But yeah, you don't have to go to Atlanta. Sure, it's the ultimate,
if you are, you're in the playoff.
For sure.
Yeah, so I guess I can see that angle of it too. Because if you are in Atlanta, you're with this expanded playoff, you're a shoe-in for the playoff.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that too. So like I say, but again, it's it's so
But I'm not going to the next point of it. Whew. Yeah, and then going to the next point of it though. Okay, the 9-3 conversation.
Yeah.
If you're 9-3 with a loss to Miami, that's where I think it can hurt you. I think if all three of your losses are SEC losses, okay, I think that's playing out how we think it might play out. Of course, Miami could be a top 10 team when it's all said and done.
That's where it's pending. Pending would be if the Canes go 10-2 or 11-1.
Yeah, but right now I think LSU's better than Miami. So I think the committee could say if that's if we're just talking those two games. Of course, the schedule could play out some other ways. But if Florida's 9-3, I think they're getting in anyway, even with a loss to Miami. But if there's a bunch of other 9-3 teams, okay, or they go, well, Florida lost to an ACC Miami team. I would hate for that to be the reason Florida doesn't get in.
It's funny.
But I think 9-3, because the top of college football, to me, it is the gap is not there this year as it has been.
Right.
I don't think there's going to be that many one-loss teams.
I think there's going to be some carnage. I think a lot of teams, like I was going to say, is would you rather be Miami or LSU? I'd rather be Miami, because they're not going to play as good a schedule as what LSU is going to play. Right. So they're going to have more losses high potentially than what the Canes would have. And that I know that what Josh Pate said a couple of weeks ago got a lot of people up in arms. He basically made the comment of, if Florida's 9-3 and LSU's 9-3, and even if the Gators lose in Baton Rouge, he would take the Gators 9-3 over LSU to get in the play. And everybody's like, "What are you?" Head to head, like all. And it was basically like, well, yes, you have to look at the 9 wins that each of them have, and yes, they do have that head to head element. But if you're saying that they beat a number 1 Texas, they beat a top 5 Georgia team, and then they beat one of these, A&M or Ole Miss or Tennessee, wherever they're ranked when they play them. And then you go back and look at LSU's 9. You're like, LSU, they might not have a good one. They might have lost their 3 losses might have been to Bama, Clemson, and South Carolina, which are all top 10 teams. True. So who do you hang their wins? The good wins that they call. So, at that
point, Florida would be a good win. Texas A&M would be a good win.
There you go.
So there's so many common opponents with Florida LSU. You got. The only ones that are not are Clemson, Bama,
South Carolina,
and South Carolina. Those are the top teams that are not the same. But
both
teams play.
What if those were their? Yeah. What if those were their 3 losses?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But we both play Texas A&M. We both play Ole Miss. Man.
No, I trust. It's one of those hypotheticals. Like again, I before we even got on, Bud and the guys at CBS, they were doing their pick predictions. He predicted Texas at 9-3 to get into the playoff, and they were all like, "Whoa! Who?" Like when you look at Texas,
who would their wins be?
Exactly, that's what it was. We talked about Texas' schedule last year was pretty soft, as your first year in the SEC, and what if they don't beat like their 3 losses? What if it's Ohio State,
Florida, and Georgia?
Florida, yeah. Then who they're hanging their wins on?
A&M,
Oklahoma, and A&M. like that doesn't get you in. But he's
No, that better not get them in over a 9-3 LSU, a 9-3
trust
Florida,
the
9-3
rest of those.
Carolina.
Yeah, the rest of those guys on the panel, Cannell and even your boy Fernelli, were like, I don't see that happening. But again,
I
he's
don't
like,
either.
they're gonna start hyping up Arkansas. They got a big one against Arkansas and Kentucky or something. He was saying the SEC ESPN hype machine was going to come into play, but again, 9-3,
I don't
9-3,
think, yeah.
9-3 is going to be a tough spot. But I think, like you said, what we're going to be arguing is, when we were talking about the other day, is a 10-2 versus a 9-3. A 10-2 Big 12 or a 10-2 Big 10 team, versus that 3-loss SEC team, whether it be a LSU or a Florida. They're going to have the better wins. They just are. So then you're basically, going to be going off of, they have one more loss, but they've got better wins. So who's the better team? And that's where the whole hiccup comes every single, when they get to the end, where they start talking about playoff spots, and, you start, banging the gavel for, this is why this team should be in. And that's what makes it fun talking point, way down into the season. But yeah, 9-3, I think with our schedule, definitely we're going to be in the talking points to basically we should be in. Now, again, where are our 9 wins and what are the 3 losses, all that stuff. But like I say, it's all about, like you say, the next game, and those first 4 to 5 games are hell. It's tough,
For
so
sure.
you got to come out and, come out hot 2-0, and then let's see where we're at with those 2 road games.
It is so different. Last year it was the brutal November.
Yeah.
Now this year it is the brutal September and early October.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because like I say, you look at the back half where everybody was talking about last year. You obviously got the Georgia game, which is going to be a huge game, but then the 2 road games, Kentucky. A lot of people aren't feeling Kentucky. Ole Miss is one of those. That's so late in the season. We're going to get a feel of where Ole Miss's season goes.
If
November
you're in
15th.
contention, those are games you better not be losing.
Right, and then you get Tennessee and Florida State at home. All 4 of those games, you feel like you are the better team right now. And so, Georgia.
Not only us. I mean, the poll right there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're
Ole
ahead
Miss
of
is
those
21,
guys.
Tennessee's 24, Kentucky, of course, not ranked. FSU, of course, not ranked. So even the polls think we're better than those last 4 teams that we play.
Yeah, you'll be favored in all those games right now, according to right now. So, yeah, it's like I say, it's fun to break it down and look, futuristic.
And looking at this, man, hey, week 0, number 17 versus number 22 next week.
Yeah,
we got in Ireland, we got a ranked matchup.
Dublin, baby, K-State, Iowa State for sure. Like I say, that's like it's it's hard to believe that's like next week, man.
Next week. My wife will have to just those 3.5 hours. She'll just it's here again already.
It's not the full
but
slate.
it's not the 12 hours.
It's not the full slate. Yeah. I was watching. There's funny those like memes and stuff where the wife. I saw one today. The wife said she had the whiteboard up and said, "All right, wives, it's football season. Here it is." And she had put down each day and what to expect. Said, "Let's do date nights on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Those are your best case scenarios because Mondays are obviously standalone games. It's a primetime game. They want to watch that Monday Night Football game. I can give or take Monday Night Football sometimes, but." Yeah.
It's
Saturday and Sunday.
It's Monday night 8:30 Gators breakdown. That's what it is.
There you go. We're talking Gators wins, baby. We're talking about Gator wins.
But yeah, it is. The podcast has certainly ramped up all the football time. So
yeah, for sure. No, that's a whole nother element that I didn't even think about.
Yep. So. But hey, just nothing like it. We're excited. But yeah, week 0 next week and a couple more weeks for the Gators.
Yeah, man.